This is a TalkStation original podcast.
As we begin this special edition of Viewpoints here on the TalkStation, very special edition, I would like to caution our audience, please do not call in to spike the football. Do not. And I know that we've got a lot of conservative listeners out there, people with very strong opinions about the President of the United States and the former President, Donald J. Trump. But in the conversation, should you decide to call, you're welcome to do so, by the way, 252 area code 222-4848, 222-4848. Let me just caution you, please do not spike the football. No victory dancing. And I'll explain why in just a few moments. But we're starting off this program this afternoon, and I do want to quickly remind you about our sponsors, of course, Floyd's 1921 Restaurant, located at 4th and Bridget Street in beautiful uptown Morehead City, and, of course, Advanced Water Systems, the people that are just doing an outstanding job of taking care of water and their customers. As we begin the program, just to warn you, or maybe trigger you, we've got Marc Rotterman joining us right at the opening of the show, and normally we would be talking to him on Thursday, but he and I decided that today would be a better day in light of the fact that, well, the event of all events, the great debate, is past. So with that, Mark, good afternoon, and what's your observation about my comment related to...
Well, first of all, it's great to be with you, Lockwood. I think you're spot on with your comment. I think it was a very sad night for America.
It was.
We saw a cognitive decline of the President of the United States. 47.9 people watched it. It gives comfort to our enemies, and it doesn't move the ball forward. He did not move the ball forward. And when you have the most demanding job in the world, and you see that type of performance, it really causes you to worry. And I think it's sad. These were not the Kennedy-Nixon debates.
No.
They really broke down as far as, I think, Biden's performance. I thought he was spiteful. I thought he looked like an old man coming in. And, you know, I commented to some of Trump's folks on the national level. I thought Trump looked 20 years younger. And they're only 3 years apart.
I know. It was the difference in demeanor, the difference in reaction, the difference in presentation, the comments, everything. Trump was Trump. That's all there was to it. The president, Joe Biden, wow. And
I thought Trump was very disciplined. He hit his marks. He didn't take advantage of, there were a couple times about 13 minutes in where Biden was just incoherent.
Right. And
that's a sad thing for America. And if you're Putin of Russia, or Kim Jong-un of North Korea, or the Chinese premier, you're looking at this, you're saying, look, I got 4 or 5 months to make a move before Trump gets back in. Now, it's not over. And I don't think Joe Biden is going to step aside. Obama came to his defense today. Now he was in Raleigh today, and he looked tan, rested, and ready. They said he had a cold last night. Obviously, it just disappeared, but he was on teleprompter. Okay, I think without notes and without a teleprompter, I just don't think Biden can communicate.
Well, the other aspect of that, Mark, you mentioned the presentation today, and you said that he looked tanned and rested. He did not look for all that comfortable last evening behind the podium. Yet, following the debate, there was a small rally, a post-debate rally, in which he talked to the assembly folks there and cheering him on.
To the believers.
And true believers. And he felt he was vibrant. He held the microphone. He had strong voice. The argument that he had a cold sure didn't pass that test in that rally last evening, and again today, the rally in Raleigh. Got to say that a few times. I am wondering what exactly, what happened during those, almost 7 days of preparation at Camp David. What did they do?
Well, they may have overprogrammed, but clearly he wasn't up to the task. And again, I think for the most powerful country in the world and the leader of the free world, it was a very disappointing and a sad performance. And it really, I think at this point, Biden is a threat to our national security. Now, if you had a cabinet that was patriotic and really believed in America and wanted the best for America, they'd invoke the 25th Amendment. That's not going to happen. I think Biden's wife, and I do think it's elder abuse, wants him to continue on. She likes the perks. She likes the planes. She likes the White House. And I think they're going to continue on. And it's very hard to get him out because of so many committed delegates to him. I just don't think he's going to release those delegates. And I think but what is happening right now is a lot of the Democratic big dollar funders are moving off of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have very good fundraising numbers in the next couple months.
All right. Again, we're talking with Marc Rotterman this afternoon. Normally we'd be speaking with them on Thursdays, but this is an important conversation. Marc, the other issue, and we're going to get into some more of these questions here in a few moments. We're going to take a quick break. But the fact that Van Jones last evening, immediately following the debate, himself said it was painful. Not only was it pitiful, but painful. And his comment was, the president needs to step down. Now, this is the same advisor that President Obama relied on as well. I'm curious.
He worked with Joe Biden. And you also had Joy Reid, who's really a propagandist on MSNBC for Biden, saying virtually the same thing. And when you have the mainstream, not the mainstream, but I'd say the legacy media, the propaganda media, this really kind of state-sponsored media, turning on him, I think the game has changed. And by the way, that was the first time, Lockwood, a lot of people got to see him freeze up like that because the mainstream media, the CBSs, the MSNBCs, and the ABCs don't show those clips.
They edit it out.
Hi, I'm Mike Combs, professional contractor and TV host. I love helping people, but when it came to improving the water in my own home, I needed help and turned to the water experts at Connecticut to make it right. My water was causing visible problems throughout my home, and it got me thinking about the problems I couldn't see. Protecting my water-using appliances and pipes, preventing stains and hardness buildup, and having clean, great-tasting drinking water are all important to me. But choosing the right water treatment equipment can be tricky. That's where Connecticut comes in. A Connecticut water expert will test your water for free and recommend the system that fits your needs and budget. Improve the quality of your water and your life with the Connecticut water treatment system. I'm so glad I did.
Call Advanced Water Systems today, your local authorized Connecticut dealer. Call 223-4444. That's 223-4444 or 1-800-865-1208. Experts agree Connecticut treats water best.
As we start this next segment, I want to throw this curve at you. How about it was intentional that the Democrats wanted the president to fail on the debate or in the debate in an effort to facilitate or expedite his possible departure? What is the chances of that?
Well, first of all, I'm sure there are people in the party like Newsom and Whitmer, Governor Newsom of California, Whitmer, Governor of Michigan, would like to see him fail, and they'd like to be the alternative.
Right.
The problem is he controls these delegates, and unless he releases them in Chicago, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And only he and Jill Biden can make that decision that he should step down. But I think they're too self-centered. They're putting their power or perceived power ahead of the country and, frankly, ahead of the Democratic Party. And I think that's a huge mistake. But you have Democrats now across the country are in full panic mode. And again, when you have MSNBC, and as you mentioned, Van Jones, who's a hyper-partisan progressive, calling for him to step down, I mean, in the words of Donald Trump, that is huge.
It is.
And you had the New York Times calling for him to step down. And think about that. You had Paul Krugman of the New York Times, who's a, quote, economist, he's wrong on almost every economic issue, saying that he wept last night in an article, but Biden has to step down. I mean, he keeps telling the lie that he inherited this inflation.
Right.
It was at 1.4 when he came in. 12, 14 months later, it was at up to 9%.
Right.
It's ridiculous, and middle-class families are getting killed, and his border policy is unconscionable. We have a war on women in this country by illegal aliens. You have to say that. Too many young women are being raped and murdered, and if they were not in this country and got paroled in this country or just let in, whether they were gotaways or the Border Patrol let them in, this would not be happening.
President Trump mentioned that on numerous occasions. It was interesting. I've got to point one other aspect. You said a few moments ago that President Trump had former president, but he still carries the title, presented a very disciplined debate or effort on his part. The other aspect of this is, and I thought it was fascinating, he took control of the debate. I'm going to give props to Dana Lash and to Jake Tapper. I thought they played it straight. I really do. And I thought the presentations were clean and directly to the point, and they even challenged both candidates. Now,
they played it straight to a point. She did come back 2 or 3 times, Dana Bash, who I know. He used to work for Judy Woodruff on Inside Politics. She came back 2 or 3 times whether he would accept the results of the election. She wanted him to say something that they could get to use as an ad. But I will say this. Trump was very disciplined, and he pivoted. No matter what question they asked him, he got the message that he wanted out.
That's what I wanted to touch on. It was interesting. They would ask a question, and at one point, he finally answered it in the last 15 seconds. I've forgotten which one it was now. I'm thinking it...
it had to do with whether he would accept the election. She came back to him 3 times on it, the results of the election.
But and he
was saying if it was clean and fair, he would accept it, and he did. But he the other where he scored points with the independent women is the way he handled the abortion issue.
Right.
I thought it was very genuine. He had clearly that was pretty much the way Kellyanne Conway has mentioned it should be framed. Rape, incest, the life of the mother, and let the state decide and follow your conscience.
Right.
I thought Biden's answer on abortion was pretty stale.
Well, not only that, it was he mumbled through most of that. The other aspect, though, I'm going back to the President Trump's handling of the debate. He was in control. He even controlled the messaging. It was stunning. I thought it just was.
And the other thing is, he did not. He could have. He said at one point, "I don't understand what he said."
Right, he did.
Which I don't think the American people or the moderators or anybody understood what he said, particularly when it came to Medicare and some other issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but tonight he didn't take advantage. He did not take advantage of that. Now he did say that he'd like to see the man take a cognitive test. Trump took 2 cognitive tests. I think for the good of the country, Biden ought to take 2 cognitive tests. Remember, he's had 2 brain embolisms, and it doesn't get any better after that. It does affect your frontal lobe. Mm-hmm. He should have an MRI. The thing I worry about is within the next 4 or 5 months, does China take advantage of Joe Biden and invade Taiwan or maybe blockade it? What does Putin do in Ukraine? Because I don't think we have any real strategic, or what's going to happen with Hamas and Israel. I mean, I think these are clear concerns that every American ought to be concerned about, and particularly when we're spending so much money. We can't defend our own border, but you were defending Ukraine's border.
Right. No, the other aspect of this, and I thought this was an important issue as well, and you mentioned the issue of Medicaid and the fact that the president did such a lousy job on explaining the economy. And throughout the debate, President Trump kept hammering on the economy. I thought that was an important issue as well.
He hammered on the economy, and he also hammered on what's happening with these people coming in and getting all the benefits.
Right.
And who's taking the jobs from the African Americans and the legal Hispanics?
That was pardon me, let me interrupt you on that. Not only, of course, the focus was on African American voters, which is unfortunate. Yeah. We keep breaking it down based on ethnicity. But he went so far, and that is President Trump, to say, wait a second, not only is this an impact on the African American population, but also the Hispanic population. So he was being more inclusive than Biden was. Biden, I don't think, even mentioned Hispanics throughout I'm trying to remember if he mentioned Hispanics.
Well, he also calls it migrant crime, but who is disproportionately impacted by illegal alien gang crimes? It's the Hispanic community, because that's where they go to live.
Right.
Okay. And I think he's hitting home there. I mean, there's a school of thought right now that he should pick Rubio to further bolster his props with the Hispanic community. And frankly, Rubio has a great story to tell because his family fled communist Cuba.
Right.
Okay, and he can talk in the Spanish language and do ads in the Spanish language to help President Trump's efforts. But there's a state of euphoria in the Republican Party, and again, I compliment you in saying not to spike the ball, because there's a lot of hurdles that President Trump has to go through, including the sentencing by the judge up in New York on July 11th, 4 days, I think, before the Republican convention.
Before we go to the break, we're coming up to another break. We're going to keep Marc Rotterman with us for another segment, by the way, here on Viewpoints. Marc, the fact that now the president, that is Joe Biden, has proven unequivocally that these are not cheap fakes, that KJP kept describing all of those other videos.
The White House Press Secretary.
Yeah, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. That now that we've seen this, my question goes to, what role does Kamala Harris play in this? I know that she attempted today to defend the president. He started off weak, but ended strong was her comment. But what role does she play? Because she herself has some issues, if you will.
Well, she hasn't accomplished anything. And her, actually, it's hard to believe, but her numbers are even worse than Joe Biden's.
And she doesn't
I think
nobody knows her.
In Trump's pick for vice president, you have to say that this is the heir apparent who could actually get 8 more years after President Trump's 4-year term if he is elected. So I think it's very key who he picks, and can they generationally relate to the Gen Z and these other folks who are young people are starting to turn against Biden because of housing prices, inflation.
Right.
A lot of these kids, and they're not kids, they're 25, 30 years old, can't afford a house. They're living at home.
Right.
It's hard to believe.
Okay, Marc, one final question. We're going to go to a break here in a moment. If in fact there is a change in the ticket, and that is President Biden steps down, now that all of the elections have been conducted, the primaries, and the opportunity for the public to make their vote known about the potential candidate for president on the Democrat ticket. Now that has been decided, and there is a change at the convention or prior to the convention, what does that do to the Democrat brand as far as being connected to the voters? Because
it depends on who they would pick, and there's some cutoff dates before the convention, August 7th, where they really he has to step down before that, or some of the ballot situations will be really confusing. Okay, but but the 9 yards of it is, let's not. If they pick somebody else, there's a huge possibility that the Democrats could get a bump going into the fall.
Right.
Because there'll be a lot of scrutiny, a lot of press around that individual, whether it's a woman or a man, whoever. Their problem is they have a Kamala problem. They can't just step around her. I mean,
she has to step down.
If they pick somebody else, I think it's going to have to be an African American. And I've been saying quite some time on your show, I still don't discount Michelle Obama.
Hi, I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
And we're Carteret County News-Times reporters and host of the new podcast, Paper Boys.
Join us each week as we bring you exclusives with coaches and athletes, tournament organizers, and newsmakers in the world of sports.
We'll cover high school football, basketball, and so much more, as well as catch up with former star athletes from our county and beyond.
Listen every week to the Paper Boys podcast, streaming now on Spotify, YouTube, and at CarolinaCoastOnline.com. New episodes every Friday.
My question now goes to the state of North Carolina and and other races across the country that are, influenced at the very least by the presidential campaign. But let's look at North Carolina as a good bellwether, if you will.
Well, I think this is very similar it has the potential to be somewhat similar to 1984, where Reagan won every state but one. And I think it's entirely possible. I think that there could be a wave here. I think that Donald Trump could pull in Marc Robinson and Dan Bishop. Of course, Marc Robinson being the Republican gubernatorial candidate and Dan Bishop being the Attorney General. I think it will help, as you say, the down ballot races. I think he is going to be a huge factor being Donald Trump in this state. And if he wins by 8 to 10 points, I think Robinson's the next governor, and Bishop is the next attorney general, and that's entirely possible. The other thing is, I think you have a deflated Democratic Party right now.
That's the question.
They cannot be happy. They can't be enthusiastic. I mean, are they going to follow this guy, Joe Biden, up the hill? I mean, again, I think I mentioned probably off camera or off mic. I mean, where was Josh Stein today? I didn't see him at the event with Roy Cooper.
Right.
Okay. He's running away from Joe Biden. And believe me, Republicans in ads will tie Josh Stein to Joe Biden. No question about it.
Wow. Okay. So this deflates not only the national party and also then, as a result, national spending, but will it deflate the state races as well, in your opinion?
Well, I do think it will. I mean, and of course, the Republicans have a lock on these Senate and House districts because of the way they are drawn now, and they've been certified by the Supreme Court. So they've got a lock on these districts, these House and Senate districts, where they're going to win overwhelmingly. And these we're going to probably, I think Republicans will pick up four seats in the House because of redistricting. I mean, the one guy who's already has a lock and is going to be a pickup will be Tim Moore, the Speaker of the House. He'll be a newly minted congressman. Because of the way they drew that district, nobody's even running against him. Okay, so you're going to have, which is going to help Speaker Johnson. I think that there's a possibility that 20 or 30 seats can be picked up in the House nationwide.
Okay,
and I think Republicans can flip the Senate as well.
Okay, that was the big question, and you just touched on something I want to close with. You mentioned Speaker Johnson. Of course, there's been a lot of criticisms about Speaker Johnson. Matt Gaetz has taken him on. We've seen others, but I'm wondering if this might sort of calm those waters in the House of Representatives.
Well, I think it will if they build a bigger majority. Okay, and I'm totally against it. You can vacate the House, the speakership with one vote. With one person coming forward, I'm totally against it. I think, look, you have to have bigger majorities to get something done. I think that Mike Johnson, this current speaker, will follow the Trump playbook. But immediately when Trump gets in, a lot of these regulations on day one are going to go away.
Right.
Okay, the border he can close down the border almost immediately. Okay, he'll have a heart-to-heart talk with the Mexican president. These drugs have got to stop flowing in this, into this country. You think about 100,000 people a day. That's like a plane going down 100,000 people a year. That's about 300 people a day dying. It's like a plane going down every day in this country of people dying from fentanyl poisoning. We have to have a heart-to-heart talk with the Mexican president, and if he can't control those cartels, then we're going to have to, because they've come in and taken over our cities. They've taken over the drug trade, and it's very deleterious to the health of our youth and to our country.
Wow. We're talking with Marc Rotterman, and as always, Marc, I really appreciate you taking time out of the day today to be a part of this. I'm looking forward to conversations going forward, particularly, and there's a lot of time between now and even the convention, but definitely between now and the election.
Did you notice, Lockwood, that Biden's already said he's in for the next debate? He's in for the next debate. He wants to debate Trump again. Realize, though, that the first impression is probably going to be the lasting impression.
Right.
I would doubt in September 10th with the next debate. And by the way, early voting will have already started in a lot of states, that they'll have the same type of numbers based on Biden's performance last night. I think people may just tune it out.
Oh, there's no question. I to the extent that everybody was looking for they were ready to rumble. Well, they saw last night that one of the opponents is just not capable, and so there'll be no faith or confidence that the next debate is going to be dynamic. That's just going to be a lot of interchange of intelligent conversation. That they're to your point. I think they are not only not turn it off, they're not going to show up. They're not even going to be there. So
Biden says he's going to be there. My biggest concern right now is July 11th,
right,
with this Merchon about a phony deal where a local district attorney takes a federal issue which he has no jurisdiction over and prosecutes the former president of the United States because he could confine him to home confinement for the next 4 or 5 months, or even put him in prison. Think about that.
Is that not voter intimidation?
Well, that's voter interference.
Interference,
but it's it will be appealed. But I think they need to take it to the Supreme Court and ask for a emergency hearing on this. He has no jurisdiction in this.
No.
At the very most, it was a misdemeanor.
No.
Okay. And by the way, it was an accounting thing. He didn't use campaign funds the wrong way. He didn't put it down the wrong way. A lot of people pay non-disclosures. A lot of people who are rich, famous, pay non-disclosures. They want to get it out of the way.
Absolutely.
That's what they did. And by the way, we're talking about something that happened
10
years ago, right?
Yeah.
8 to 10 years ago.
Right. No, long past the state of statute of limitations. All right.
Right.
Marc, I again really appreciate your time. Marc Rotterman.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. I think you're to be complimented to tell Republicans, hey, don't spike the ball. The game ain't over yet.
Oh, far from it. Thank you very much. Marc Rotterman with us this afternoon, and you heard it first here on the Talk Station.
I'm Ryan Kelly.
I'm Lynn Schultz.
And we're the hosts of the Senior Moment Podcast.
Each week we bring you conversations with experts right here in our community about the common and uncommon challenges facing our aging population and caregivers.
We discuss the challenges of caring for a loved one with dementia, as well as the importance of health planning, family history, and much more.
Join us every week for Senior Moment, streaming now on Spotify, YouTube, and at CarolinaCoastOnline.com.
All right, speaking of outstanding, hey, I've got an interesting meme. I've got two interesting memes. One, it's a picture of Donald Trump and President Biden, and President Biden is sort of looking with one eye shut, the other one, a pencil hole for an eyeball, and he's got a question mark over his head and the balloon. And then the other one below it is a picture of the Democrat headquarters. I don't know where it is, but it says "Home of the Whopper." Okay. Good afternoon to you, Mary. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Did you notice that during that whole debate, I didn't see Biden blink once?
You know, I didn't pay any attention to that. But I was.
Well, think back. Think back a minute.
What I was looking at. Let me tell you something. What impressed me was how smooth his skin was. He is put. I'll tell you what. I'm going to buy stock in Botox. He had no wrinkles.
Well, you know, when your brain doesn't work all the way and you don't have a lot of emotions, you don't develop wrinkles.
Oh, rightwinggranny.com is the website.
Is that true?
Probably so. Probably so. All right. By the way, you did watch it. Wait, I'm curious. When did you determine that the winner and loser of that debate?
Well, when they walked on stage, Trump strode on stage very confidently. Biden had that funny arms thing and kind of shuffled on. And at that point, I kind of wondered. And the sentence, and I don't even remember what it was, where Trump said, I didn't understand what he said. I'm not sure he understood what he said. Then you knew. Then it was over. And then I don't know that CNN showed this. I saw it later on YouTube, is Jill Biden escorting her husband off the stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did not come down that stage by himself. She went up and got him.
Ah, okay.
So there are some real questions here. And I know the debate now is, are we going to change candidate? Are the Democrats going to change candidates? I don't know. My bet, I think I told you this, my bet is on Wes Moore, who nobody's ever heard of, and that's the point. He's the governor of Maryland. He's black, so he doesn't have a record.
Oh, okay. And well, we're talking with Wes Moore, right-wing granny.
He checks some boxes, and I think they're into checking boxes right now.
Okay, yes, they are.
They have to check some boxes if they're going to remove Kamala.
Well, that is the big challenge. All right, we're talking with right-wing granny, as we like to call her. Do facts really matter? What's this story?
Well, this was written before the debate,
and
I went through some of the talking points that I thought that were going to come up, and some of Biden's recent lies. And he talked about and he said this again last night, that he said when he took office, the economy was in free fall.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And inflation was high. When he took office, inflation was 1.something percent.
1.4%. That's right. I know.
And I think what they're trying to do, all the Trump campaign has to run around and say, "Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?"
That's right.
The Biden point, what I picked up last night, there are two talking points. Convicted felon.
Right.
That was on my bingo card. I knew that would come up. And they're calling Trump a liar, but somehow they never specifically point out what he lied about.
Well, I thought what was interesting was Trump very wisely never got into the weeds. For example, the complaint about the president's, that is President Biden's, accusation that President Trump said that the neo-Nazis, the Charlottesville quote, that they are all good people. And to President Trump's credit, he didn't explain.
He said that's already been discredited.
He said that it's all been discredited. And he didn't even get into the details, which I think was a wise decision.
I thought I heard this. Did I hear in the process of that Biden say something about pitchforks and torches?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I can't believe that.
Yes, he did. No,
that's reminiscent of the old Frankenstein movie.
It is. That's the image he was trying to portray, and quite frankly, it didn't help the President Biden's debate. All right. But let's talk about some of the observations about the debate that you've put in your blog. And by the way, the blog is rightwinggranny.com. Notes on the presidential debate.
Well, he also talked about President Biden tried to blame Trump for the open border.
Right.
And people who have been paying attention, and I realize not everybody's a political geek. I understand that. But the executive orders that President Biden signed on his first day in office undid everything that President Trump had done to secure the border.
Yeah. And again, President Trump just had stated that over and over again and kept saying, and we are going to be looking at, he said, this is killing the economy for the African Americans. He's killing the economy. He quickly pointed out also with the Hispanics. And then he went so far as to say, and this is President Trump, we don't know how well, this is going to be very, very bad. He didn't go into any other details, but he was saying that for the entire country. I thought that was interesting as well.
Well, as an old person, I will tell you that I don't appreciate inflation because we're in a fixed income. Now, my next question is who fixed it? But I don't appreciate inflation because there are a lot of elderly who are living on, their retirement. He's killed the stock market. I don't know. Supposedly it's high, but I've lost $60,000 since he took office.
Yeah, no, and of course, the inflation is taking away every bit of your profits as a result of that.
Yeah,
right.
It's awful.
We are talking with Right Wing Granny, rightwinggranny.com. All right, let's move aside here to what's happening in Argentina. That was an interesting story.
Oh, this is why we need to learn from this.
Right.
This was a Breitbart article.
Uh-huh.
And this was what has happened since the election of President Milei.
Right.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. That's the best
Milei,
I can
that's
do.
right. Yes.
And they reported for the first time that there was no inflation in online supermarkets for a week.
Wow.
That's the first time that has happened in Argentina in 3 decades. And they found that the prices of food and drinks only experienced an increase of 0.1% in the past 15 days. Now, when he came into office, he slashed the government and he slashed the spending. And the economy has rebounded. They recorded a surplus in GDP. And he's now in Europe talking to the EU people, who I'm sure would like him to go away very quickly. But they could learn from him.
Oh, they definitely. Well, you know what? Maybe we can learn here in the States as well. All right, speaking of that, the fifth column?
Some things make me mad.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, one of the things that turned the 2020 election was that letter from the 51
the CIA.
Spies, former spies, whatever.
The CIA contractors, right, yeah.
That Joe Biden in the debate said, well, 51 people said it wasn't really Hunter's laptop. We know now that that was a lie, and that probably impacted the election.
Yep.
Some of those 51 people were active CIA contractors.
Mm-hmm.
And the FBI at that point knew the laptop was real. So we had people paid by our government influencing an election.
Well, and still may happen with Judge Merchan. So, yes. All right, before we wrap it up, are you a terrorist suspect because you attend church?
Yes, the Department of Homeland Security brainstormed about infiltrating local communities to spy on Americans and suggested being religious or in the military was an indicator of extremism and terrorism, according to documents obtained by America First Legal. So I don't know. I mean, my understanding is probably, I could be wrong on this, I would just roughly guess at least 60% of North Carolina goes to church. Do you think that's a reasonable guess?
Yes, and I would say a close number, same number, have a military experience, military service.
Now, I would say in Massachusetts, probably 25% of people go to church.
Yeah. It's just
So
almost
then it
the
would
opposite.
depend on what your state was.
Right. Well,
whether or not you were a terrorist.
Are you a terrorist suspect because you attend church? Go to the website, rightwinggranny.com. This is coming from the Federalist. And ladies and gentlemen, do read this one article. If you, this will give you an idea of what is potentially going to happen if we stay the course, and we do not need to stay the course.
Can I leave you with one last thought?
Go for it.
There's a meme I didn't send you that is up on the website.
Uh-huh.
It says, Congress is like two drunks arguing the bar bill on the Titanic.
Ooh. All right. That's rightwinggranny.com. I love that. Stay tuned for more here on the Talk Station where, as she's proven, it is smart radio.